insults and accusations. A chaotic first presidential debate. President Donald Trump and rival Joe Biden went after each other. Meeting senators. Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett is back on Capitol Hill. Fighting for the faithful. The U.S. ambassador for international religious freedom addresses diplomats in Rome. And a time for healing. Why Pope Francis says church teaching can help build a better world after the coronavirus crisis. On EWTN News Nightly for Wednesday, September 30th, 2020. Good evening, and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Tracy Sable. The first presidential debate makes clear just how important the Supreme Court and abortion are to this year's presidential election. President Donald Trump and Democratic rival Joe Biden sparred over both Roe versus Wade and the future of the court. White House correspondent Owen Jensen begins our team coverage now. Owen?
Tracy, for pro-life advocates, more than one exchange in last night's raucous debate in Cleveland, Ohio, between both candidates really stood out.
President Donald Trump and Democrat Joe Biden engaged in their first big debate. Cordial, it was not.
Keep yapping, man.
The people understand, Joe.
They sure
47 years you've done nothing. They understand.
All right.
Right out of the gates, a fight over the Supreme Court and President Trump's Catholic nominee, Judge Amy Coney Barrett, moving forward fast.
We have the Senate, we have the White House, and we have a phenomenal nominee.
Tens of thousands of people have already voted. And so the thing that should happen is we should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is.
But Joe Biden refused to answer whether he supports a Democratic plan to pack the court by expanding the number of justices.
Vote now.
Are you gonna pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know
He doesn't want
you're a
to answer the
senator.
question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why
because
wouldn't you answer that
because
question?
the question
you want to put a
is
lot of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justices,
the
radical
question,
left.
Will you
Who
shut
is
up,
on,
man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
Joe Biden, a Catholic, is pro-abortion. President Trump is pro-life. They had this testy exchange over Roe versus Wade.
The president also is opposed to Roe v. Wade. That's on the ballot as well in the court. And so that's also at stake right now. And so the election is already
You don't know it's
begun.
on the ballot. Why is it on the ballot?
Because
Why is
you
it on the
said
ballot? It's not on the ballot.
It's on the ballot in the
I
court.
don't think so.
In the court. Well,
There's nothing happening there.
Donald, would you
And
just
you don't
be quiet
know
for a
her
minute?
view on Roe v. Wade.
Now tonight, both candidates are on the campaign trail. As for the debates, it's 1 down, 2 to go. Next month, they'll be in Miami and in Nashville. And next week, it's the vice presidential debate in Salt Lake City, Utah. Tracy?
Okay, thank you so much, Owen. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reporting for us tonight. Joining me now from Cleveland with more on last night's debate is Philip Crowther, international affiliate reporter for the Associated Press. Philip, welcome back. Always great to see you. So a lot has been said about last night's debate, but unfortunately nothing exactly positive. In your opinion, as a reporter covering this election, how does this compare to previous presidential debates, and also what stood out the most to you?
Well, it certainly doesn't compare well. We were expecting an aggressive debate because of what we've seen from the president in the past and how we've seen him act as a president as well, of course. But I think nothing could prepare us for the unruly chaos that we saw on stage in the debate hall. You can see behind me so many interruptions, most of them coming from President Trump, a lot of vitriol from him as well, but a lot of the insults and a lot of the strongest attacks actually coming from the former vice president. He's the one who, after all, called the president of the United States a clown. He called him a racist, as you just heard in that one soundbite. He told him to shut up and called him the worst president the United States has ever had. That's the kind of tone we had during this debate here, and from the president, a few memorable moments here, because he was given the opportunity to commit to accepting the election results on the 3rd of November or shortly thereafter, when all of the votes will be counted. He did not commit to that. He was also asked to condemn white supremacists outright, and he also did not do that on stage. In other words, that will give us and the pundits plenty to talk about over the next few weeks as we wait for the next presidential debate.
Philip, as you and I talked about yesterday, the COVID-19 pandemic was on the list of last night's debate topics. What did each candidate have to say on that issue and where things stand?
Yeah, we're trying to find some substance there, aren't we, among all the shouting. It's not that easy to find. But there was a discussion, or rather a shouting match, if you will, about the coronavirus crisis and how to deal with it. Now, what's interesting about these presidential debates is oftentimes they are the very first opportunity for some American voters to actually see these candidates face to face, and they got a pretty clear view of where they stand in how the United States should deal with the coronavirus outbreak and how they believe it has dealt with it so far. The president, for example, believes that his administration has done very well, that there would have been many more deaths in this country had he not intervened. And he also, of course, believes that the economy has to be reopened in part or fully for the country to get back on its feet again. Now, compare that to the view from the former Vice President, Joe Biden. Now, he first of all, of course, criticizes the Trump administration for its slow reaction to the pandemic, but also believes that the coronavirus outbreak has to be got under control, first of all, before the U.S. economy can come roaring back. Those are two very, very differing points of view.
Well, Philip, the Commission on Presidential Debates is weighing in today, saying the face-off showed the need for, quote, additional structure. Do we know yet what changes are being considered and any idea how last night's debate is playing with voters?
Yeah, it sounds a little bit cryptic, doesn't it, from the Commission on Presidential Debates. That's the organization that organizes all of these debates, including the next three that are to come. Here's what they said. They want to, quote, ensure a more orderly discussion of the issues. Now, essentially what they want is for there to be fewer interruptions here, and you know that most of those came from the president, and there is a relatively easy way of stopping those, we believe, of course, and that is to shut down the microphone, essentially, for the candidate who is not supposed to be speaking during the other candidate's 2 minutes. Now, we've already heard from the Trump campaign they are not on board with this. They believe that this is a partial decision on behalf of the Commission on Presidential Debates. Now, we should also maybe mention that there were positive words from the Commission on the debate moderator, Mr. Wallace of Fox News. Now, Chris Wallace had a very, very difficult time last night, but he got praise from the organizers. But who would be a debate moderator right now? Who would want to stand in the middle of these two candidates for the next debate? That's a very, very difficult job indeed. As for how this debate went down with voters, a little bit too early to tell. The president believes he came out the winner, but I don't think all too many polls currently say that.
Well, Philip, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. Philip Crowther, international affiliate reporter for the Associated Press. Thanks again, Philip. And we'll have debate reaction plus the very latest in the Supreme Court battle coming up later in our broadcast. A court in India has acquitted more than 24 people who were accused of crimes in a 1992 attack and demolition of a 16th century mosque that sparked Hindu-Muslim violence and left some 2,000 people dead. All 32 people were acquitted. 17 others died of natural causes during the trial, which has lasted 28 years. Hindus believe their god Ram was born on the site of the 16th century mosque that was attacked and destroyed by a mob in 1992. Muslims are vowing to appeal the verdict. The U.S. Ambassador at Large for International Religious Freedom says many of the conflicts around the world have one thing in common.
I believe the key to peace in many of the conflicts around the world today is the protection of religious freedom for all.
When asked if he had anything to add,
Ambassador Sam Brownback's comments came at a conference on religious freedom organized by the U.S. Embassy to the Holy See. Other speakers included U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who urged the Vatican to denounce human rights abuses in China.
Catholic lay leaders.
U.S. Ambassador at Large for International Religious Freedom, Sam Brownback, joins us now from Rome. Ambassador, welcome back to the show. So great to see you. So what are some of the key highlights and takeaways from today's event?
Really, I think the focus of having both the Vatican and the United States pushing on religious freedom, pushing on it centrally, saying this is a key topic in the world. It's a key topic for peace in the world. It's a key topic for really us having open and strong societies. And joining these voices together is an important thing to have. As I've said before, if you get the Vatican and the United States pushing together, you can move heaven and earth. And that's what we hope to do.
I know during your remarks you mentioned the Catholic Archbishop from Belarus who has not been allowed to return to the country. Do you have any updates on his situation?
No good ones, other than that he is still not allowed to enter the country. And I think this is just really a terrible situation. It's in Europe. It's a continent that has known really for religious freedom and openness, and here you've got a country that won't even let back in the leader of the Catholic Church, a major church within that nation. That's why I hope a lot more European countries will join a strong voice on this and saying this is just not appropriate action. It's not appropriate anywhere in the world. It's certainly not appropriate in Europe.
Ambassador, are there any other regions that you're keeping your eye out for right now?
Unfortunately, there are a lot of them. I'm keeping my eye out on. Nigeria, unfortunately, has really had a growth in violent treatment of its religious, mostly Christians, but also Muslims being persecuted in that nation. And then China has been a strong focus just because they're doing so much oppression of all faiths. And then they're using the modern technology, artificial intelligence and cameras everywhere, genetic tracking of people. It's really the use of modern technology to oppress the faithful, and I'm afraid it may end up being the cutting edge of how a religious community is oppressed. We don't want to see that go anywhere else, and we want to see it no longer exist in China as well.
I know earlier today, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo asked the Vatican to be more vocal in condemning China's human rights abuses. What did you think of those remarks?
Well, they were strong, but also I think it's important. The Vatican, the Pope has always been a strong moral voice in the world on many situations around the world. And we're just deeply troubled about a number of them, but particularly what's taking place in China and particularly what's taking place to the faith community. And it's all faiths. It's Tibetan Buddhists being oppressed. It's Muslim Uyghurs being oppressed. It's the house church and Catholics in China. It's the Falun Gong group. It's everybody that the Chinese government is oppressing. And it's just really, it's about the difficulty that communism has with faith. And it always has in its history, and it is now. It's an officially atheistic belief system that communism is. They cannot stand the notion that there is a moral authority above the government, and yet there is. And we need to have people be able to speak up and speak out that this is wrong to oppress your religious faithful in a country, particularly one that's the size and scale of China and that seeks to be a world leader. They've got to let their people practice their faith freely and honestly and peacefully.
Well, Ambassador, thank you so much for your time, and also thank you for what you do. U.S. Ambassador at Large for International Religious Freedom, Sam Brownback. Thanks again.
Thanks. God bless you.
Former Vatican Finance Chief Cardinal George Pell is in Rome for the first time since he was acquitted on child sex abuse charges. The 79-year-old arrived this morning. He is in Rome for the first time since 2017, when he took a leave of absence to battle the abuse claims in his native Australia. Coming up, Amy Coney Barrett meets more senators on Capitol Hill as the Supreme Court battle continues. Senate Republicans are coming to the defense of Judge Amy Coney Barrett. This was the second day that President Trump's nominee to the Supreme Court participated in meet-and-greet sessions with senators ahead of her confirmation hearing. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales reports.
I would argue they're not doing their jobs.
Republican Todd Young criticizes his Democratic colleagues who say that they will not meet with Judge Amy Coney Barrett.
This is exciting Republicans and conservatives around the country, and I dare say even Catholics, to see one of their own who unapologetically leans into her faith and defends her faith amidst unfair attacks.
There can be no religious test for anyone serving in any position within the federal government, and yet here we are watching the attacks against Judge Barrett because of her devout devotion to Catholicism.
Yesterday, Senator Ted Cruz met with the Catholic mother of 7.
I expect my Democratic colleagues to do everything they can to attack Judge Barrett.
Cruz is a member of the Judiciary Committee and will participate in her confirmation hearing scheduled to begin October 12th.
I very much hope we don't see them recreate the personal smears that marred the Kavanaugh confirmation hearing.
And while the Senate Democratic leader continues to object to Judge Barrett's nomination,
my colleagues are united in opposition. Many of them have issued statements in opposition, and we are united. Democrats, House, Senate, and Joe Biden.
Republicans look forward to her confirmation.
We're going to ask the hard questions of Judge Barrett. She will pass the test, I believe, with flying colors, and she'll be the next Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States.
As Judge Barrett walks the halls of Congress, you can definitely see that she has her game face on. Sources say that she is intensively preparing for her upcoming confirmation hearing. At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
John Malcolm, Vice President of the Institute for Constitutional Government at the Heritage Foundation, joins me now on Skype. John, welcome back. Great to see you, and thanks for coming on. I want to talk about Judge Barrett's nomination in just a moment, but first, I'd like to get your take on last night's presidential debate. Do you think, what have we learned from this or didn't about the candidates and the Supreme Court? As you know, they don't share the same viewpoint on the process to fill Justice Ginsburg's seat.
Well, that is certainly true, and their approach to cases is radically different. So I think, 3 things we heard last night. The president said that Judge Barrett will make an outstanding Supreme Court justice. I agree with that. He also said that they have the ability, in terms of control, Republican control of Senate, and he is, of course, a Republican as well, to get this done. I agree with that. And then I suppose the most significant thing that we heard is that Vice President Biden refused to say whether or not he would pack the court by adding additional justices to the current 9 members if he's elected president.
Yeah, as we heard last night, President Trump said Republicans won the election and therefore have the right to choose. And Joe Biden said voting is underway and this should wait. Your thoughts again on that?
Well, look, these vacancies don't come up very often. And I think it's important to fill them when you have the opportunity to do so. 19 times in an election year, a president has made a nomination when the presidency and the Senate were controlled by the same party. 17 of those nominees were confirmed. 10 times the president has made a nomination in an election year in which the presidency and the Republican and the Senate were controlled by different parties. Only 2 of those nominees were confirmed, and the last time that happened was in 1888. During the Grover Cleveland administration. So, look, this is an opportunity not to be missed, and the Republicans are jumping on it.
Yeah. As you mentioned, Biden didn't answer questions on ending the filibuster or expanding the Supreme Court. What do you make of that? And also, do you think it was a missed opportunity with voters?
Well, it's a potentially very significant thing. So some people think that the number of Supreme Court justices is established by the Constitution. It is not, and the number has varied over time, although it's been in 9 for a long time, and that appears to work very, very well. So the Democrats have basically said that if they keep the House and they win control of the Senate and they take the White House, that they will eliminate the filibuster for legislation. And one of the things that they have said that they will try to pass is a law that increases the number of justices on the Supreme Court and probably the number of judges on the lower courts. And if they will have the power to do that, and they can do that.
I want to focus back now on Judge Barrett. As we've seen, she's meeting with Republican senators on Capitol Hill, and some Democrats have indicated that they'll meet with her ahead of confirmation hearings. However, Democratic leaders said that they won't. What's your reaction to that, and what do you think of this politicization that these meetings are having between senators and Judge Barrett?
Well, look, the confirmation process has unfortunately devolved down into a highly partisan political process. These are referred to as courtesy calls, and if there are some Democratic senators who wish to be discourteous and not meet with Judge Barrett, that's their prerogative. She has a lot of preparation to do between now and October 12th. So if she misses a couple of meetings and spends a little bit more time in preparation, that's probably okay. All of those Democratic senators will have the opportunity to question her over a 2-day period during the confirmation hearing. And of course, they had that opportunity in 2017 when she was confirmed to the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals.
All right, John, thank you so much. John Malcolm, Vice President of the Institute for Constitutional Government at the Heritage Foundation. Thank you again. Up next, Rome Bureau Chief Alan Holdren speaks one-on-one with the President of Poland. The president of Poland was in Rome last week and met with Pope Francis. The two discussed the importance of the family and education. Later, President Andrzej Duda sat down with EWTN Rome Bureau Chief Alan Holdren. They spoke about the Catholic faith and the president's vision for his country. Here's some of their conversation with the help from a translator.
This video went viral back in 2015 around the world, showing Polish President Andrzej Duda picking up a host that had been dropped at Mass and returning it to the priest at the altar.
Indeed, I was raised in a family that has always been Catholic, for generations. As a child, I was an altar boy. I served Mass at church in Krakow and in Stary Sachs, where my father was born.
It's no secret that President Duda has a strong Catholic faith, not just in his personal life, but in the policies he fights for as well.
You've made defending and promoting the traditional family a big part of your platform in Poland. If we look at your policies, you're constantly defending the family, and this is in the face of the European Union, which often speaks poorly of Poland for defending these values. What do you think the EU is asking of you personally and as a president, and how is Poland's response?
The family in my presidency and in my life has an immense value, in my view of the state, every state. But first of all, obviously, the Polish state. What is there to say but that there is no nation, no state, without a family that has children? Marriage, according to the Polish constitution, is a union between a man and a woman, and the parents have the right to raise the children according to their convictions. But I work, I serve Poland. That is my duty. And how our politicians in other countries, other presidents approach this, that's their prerogative. And it's their societies who hold them accountable. That's my approach.
In his meeting with Pope Francis at the Vatican, they spoke about the importance of standing by the faith in the face of strong anti-Christian propaganda.
It is simply our duty as people of faith to pronounce our values steadfastly, constantly, and unceasingly, and try with all of our strength to stem these other currents which, in my conviction, destroy the traditional family, destroy the human being as it is best understood. They disrupt traditional upbringing. I think we should pronounce our values despite everything, do our duty, and that's what I do.
In Rome, Alan Holdren, EWTN News Nightly.
And finally tonight, Pope Francis says church teachings can play an important role in the global recovery from the coronavirus pandemic.
Adesso torniamo alla normalità. No, questo non va.
At his weekly talk with pilgrims at the Vatican, the Holy Father believes a fair and just society should emerge after the COVID-19 crisis, one in which the last count just as much as the first. He also says the next virus should be love, and the next global epidemic should be one of hope. We thank you for watching tonight. For the entire EWTN News Nightly team, I'm Tracy Sable. Good night and God bless.